What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Coming up today, I'm going to give you my thoughts on last night's friendly win over Sporting Lisbon in the Algarve. We'll also talk about Brendan Rodgers' comments on the impending arrival of Shin Yamada from Japan, and we'll discuss the speculation surrounding Odsonne Edouard amidst a possible return to Celtic as well. The manager's made some comments in that regard last night as well, so we'll talk a bit about that and the lack of transfer activity, or the perceived lack of transfer activity at this stage in the window, with the start of the season only a couple of weeks away. So we'll start with that friendly last night. I think the increase in the quality of the opposition was good. This is where you start to see the friendlies ramp up now. It's not doesn't have the feeling of a B team game with some first team players mixed in. You get that first team feel to it. I think that the lineup that started the game last night is probably close as it stands right now to the lineup that will play against St Mirren on the opening day of the season. Maybe Carter Vickers, who hasn't been involved so much in pre-season so far. I think he's back training with the group now, but I think Carter Vickers in for Dane Murray, and I think you're probably somewhere close to the team that might start that first game of the season. And there's numerous areas throughout the team which we'll come back to when we talk about the transfer news later on in the video. But I think we've played really well on the night. If you watched the game, you would have saw it. I think we pressed really well. I think Sporting Lisbon probably a bit earlier in the preparations than us. They did have some of their key players not taking part, but it was still a strong side. They're still a good calibre a team, winning the Portuguese league last season. So again, a good test for us. And I think you could see that we pressed it really well. There was some really nice flowing moves out for the back, straight for the goalkeeper, through the defence into midfield. We had that triangle in midfield and McGregor, Hatate and Negrin. I think Negrin, you can tell he's going to be a really, really good player for us. I think it's obviously early days, but you can just tell when someone is a really competent footballer, he's technically really sound. He's got a lovely confidence when he's on the ball. He's comfortable dribbling with it and driving up the pitch. Some really nice touches, some nice bits of understanding between him and Hatate as well, which is something that hopefully we can see nurtured into the start of the season. Maybe still some doubts about Rio Hatate's future, but I think those two look like they could strike up a really nice partnership in there. Negrin, I thought, peeling off to the right hand side at times. Some of his movements were really good. Playing in that position though, again, when he came to the club, we weren't sure if he was going to play off the right hand side or centrally. It does look like he's going to play centrally. I think the big challenge for him will just be against the ball and the defensive side of the game when it comes to the European fixtures and the bigger games. But I think you can tell he's a really, really neat football player, and I think he'll do well for us this season. I don't think there's really much doubt about that. I think the first half we had some really nice openings. Ida had two brilliant chances. A lovely ball down the left. Maeda cut it back for him straight at the keeper. And then he had that one where I think he should have went with his head, where Tierney whipped in a lovely cross in the second phase. From the second phase after a set piece. He really should have done better with that one as well. I think Ida, again, I know that he seems to be under the microscope, and it's silly to be judging players at this stage of the season and friendlies and stuff, but I think it's sort of a residual feeling from the back end of last season. We need reinforcements in that area of the pitch, and I think we know that Admida will score his goals, but we need something else. We need different qualities. We need someone else to come in and really bolster those attacking options, and we'll revisit that in a minute when we talk about Brendan Rodgers' comments last night. But second half, we did see some changes in the game. I think the older I get, the more difficult I find it to watch pre-season friendlies. But like I say, when the level of opposition steps up, you get a more settled starting 11, and they get to 60-65 minutes before there's changes in the game. I think in those early pre-season friendlies, where there's a lot of young players involved, the entire team gets changed at half time, the game loses all rhythm. It's very difficult to watch. I think that as a spectacle, it almost becomes unwatchable. Some of those early pre-season friendlies, very little flow and very little structure to the game, and there's that many changes. But last night, I thought when the changes did get made around 65 minutes, there wasn't a great drop-off from us, and I think we scored a lovely second goal. Johnny Kenny, who came on at half-time in the game, done brilliant to win the penalty. He was really sharp, getting in there in front of the defender. Hatate put the penalty away just about. The keeper should have saved it, but it squirmed under his body. And I think his involvement in the second goal as well, Johnny Kenny was really, really good receiving the ball deep. I think McCowan actually gave it to him from the edge of the box out to the left-hand side. He drove forward with it. McCowan had continued his run, and he showed lovely composure. Luke McCowan bearing down on goal at pace. The defender coming in on his blind side, at his left hand, his left shoulder, and he just sort of dummied it, nutmegged him, and then showed lovely composure to finish it past the goalkeeper. I thought it was a really good outing from us. I know we lost the game in Portugal last weekend there, but again, I think that's an encouraging display from us. You can never take too much from pre-season friendlies, but nice to see a good level of performance against a good level of opposition. I think we pressed really well. I think we played some lovely football. You can obviously see the weak points in the team in terms of the depth and the areas where we need to add quality, but I think last night, all in all, was a good outing for us. Now, not too much happening in the transfer front just now in terms of deals coming in. The last big news that I spoke to you about last week was the £1.5 million deal for Shin Yamada. That looks like it is on the way to being completed now. I think the East Asian Cup is finished. He's going to make his way to Glasgow for a medical, and he will become a Celtic player now. Last night, Brendan Rodgers gave us some comments confirming the arrival of Yamada, and here is what he had to say. He'll have a medical over the next couple of days, and we'll have a look at him. We've lost a lot of goals, so we need to replace that. Hopefully this can be one of a number of players we bring in that aspect. He's got intensity and work rate. It's something the scouts have seen. In terms of the club, we will bring in players to develop and players for now. The idea was to bring him in and assess him. He's a strong boy, but we'd want to add to our front line also. So I think you can tell from those comments again, very similar to the sort of comments he made around Hayato Inamura's arrival to the club, where it seemed like it was a club signing. He said words to that effect numerous times throughout both spells at the club, Brendan Rodgers. You seem to go through this with Celtic every summer transfer window. You go through this arduous process of worried about the players we're bringing in. If you're not worried about the quantity of players, you're worried about the quality of players. And then you have these sound bites for Brendan Rodgers that you have to analyse and overanalyse and read into. It just seems to be the way of it, and these are similar things that we've heard in the past, and it does raise question marks about Brendan Rodgers' future at the club. I think you can tell again that this is a signing in terms of Shin Yamada, who the scouting department have identified because of his intensity, his work rate, probably his goal output, not allowing for this current season, but in the season gone by his goal output had been decent as well. So again, as a development player, Brendan Rodgers is describing Yamada as a development player, despite the fact that he's a little bit older, 25 years of age. The idea is to bring him in and assess him. That seems like he's distancing himself a wee bit from the signing, and he's very, very clear that we need more in that area of the pitch. Now, with Yamada's arrival, we will have Ida, Yamada, Kenny, and Brendan Rodgers is telling you we need to bring in another one and a player for now, not a player to develop. So clearly Brendan Rodgers is looking for a big signing, a big striker to come in, not in terms of a big name necessarily, but of a higher calibre who's ready right now to go into this team, take us to the Champions League, and really improve on what we've got and replace those goals that we've lost, because with Kyogo departing and with Kuhn departing as well, that's a lot of goals, and that's the thing that Brendan Rodgers keeps coming back to. Now, one name who has been linked with us is Edouard. It seems like every good player that leaves Celtic, if they don't set the header alight wherever they go, it's only a matter of time before they're linked with a return to the club, and Edouard is the latest. Now, Brendan Rodgers was also asked about that last night, and here is what he had to say on it. Again, just as I mentioned there, I'm not worried so much about a big name. Big names don't always give you what you need. This team needs hunger, goals, work rate and intensity. Odsonne hasn't been on my radar, to be fair. I obviously know him, but it's about a player who will fit into the structure of this team. So again, he seems to be distancing himself from the links to odds and Edouard. You can let me know in the comments if you'd be open to Edouard returning. Again, these are the kind of things that grow arms and legs on social media, because some people come straight out and say, well, we don't want him back because, again, constantly we're going back to players who were here before, because it seems like the recruitment structure goes down a blind alley, and when we're trying to bring in players at the next level, we can never seem to do that reliably, so we end up back at players who have been here before. And there's this tag that's levelled at Edouard after his final full season at the club, which of course was a disaster. I think Edouard was a top player. I think he would come into this team and really improve it. I don't see it happening though. I don't foresee a transfer being done. It hasn't worked out for him at Crystal Palace. He went on loan to Leicester last season. Didn't really work out for him there either. He'll be on big money down south, and whether we could bring him back, certainly on a permanent basis, I would be surprised. And most importantly, reading into Brendan Rodgers' comments there, it looks like he's unsure whether Edouard would fit in to this team. He's obviously a quality player, and I think unfairly judged because of the last season that he had at the club. He was the best player in the team by a mile just before he left, and in the season before, the COVID season as well, he was absolutely fantastic. He was a joy to watch. And actually at that time, he was among those debates about who's the best striker since Henrik Larsson. So would he improve this team? Absolutely. Do I see it happening? I'm not sure. I don't think so. We'll keep an eye on it and see if it develops. But Brendan Rodgers, as I say, seems to be distancing himself a wee bit from that one now. There's obviously numerous areas across the pitch that need addressing. Left back, where we've been linked with a couple of different names over the last week or so. Striker is a big one. Brendan Rodgers has confirmed there that despite Yamada coming in, we need someone else, and I think we need a high calibre signing of good pedigree, and I think that's what he's looking for. And again, winger is really high up the list now, with Jota being out. Kuhn has gone, and you see Maeda on the left hand side last night from the start, and Forrest on the right hand side. Now you look at the squad, and we've only really got Yang, Forrest, Maeda, and Jota, who can't be considered for selection until the beginning of next year. So we've got to get work done in terms of wide players as well. There's so much work for the club to do in these last, it's only 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks to the season starts, but approaching that Champions League qualifier as well, which is the big thing on the horizon for the club. And again, I do get a sense that people are growing impatient, and as we approach those games at the start of the season, we've got a tough away game at Pittodrie, the first derby of the season, the Champions League qualifier. If we don't get these deals done and get these key areas improved in time for those games, couple that with the doubt around the manager's future, I think the concerns are only going to grow louder and louder. Let us know your own thoughts on everything we've talked about today in the comments below. I'll see you at the weekend for the Newcastle game. I'm not going to be there at the game, but we'll be doing a live stream afterwards for that one. And if we get any new transfer news, any big stories breaking, I'll be with you to give you my reaction to that. In the meantime, thank you for watching today, and I will see you at the weekend. Cheers.